Hi everybody, my name is Brian and I'm going to go over how to change the strings on a Tune-O-Matic system. That's what this is. It's a Tune-O-Matic, this kind of bridge system on this Les Paul copy, and this is a Squire Les Paul copy. So the first thing that I do usually when I'm changing strings is I wrap everything that's potentially damaging with something that will soften the blow. So I bubble wrap everything. So this wood table, this is a wood table, I just covered it with some cloth, and that's to prevent the table from damaging my guitar, and vice versa. This is to ensure that the guitar doesn't damage the table. Okay, so that's one of the first things I do. The other thing I do is I wash my hands. Believe it or not, and depending on the person especially, you have a lot of grime on your fingers and you don't want to start off your string change with grimy fingers. I went ahead and laid out all the things I was going to need. The only thing I'm missing is strings, and I'm going to be replacing the strings on this guitar with some Elixir OptiWebs. So I really like these strings, and just as advertised, they do have a long life. So those are the strings I'm going to use. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove some of the things, the tuner that was on it, I'm going to take it off. And one of the things I've been noticing with these snark tuners is that they start to break through usage, especially this model that's got this like triangular connective point. Anyway, take that off, and I go ahead and take off the straps. I'm not going to need it for now. What else? I went ahead and bundled a couple towels together with a hair tie just to use that as my mount, because you might not realize this is that if you just let your guitar sit, the headstock is resting on the table. So maybe you can see it on this side, but you don't want that. If you can help it, try to avoid that. So this is a little thing just to make sure that your neck doesn't, the headstock doesn't kind of have leverage. So that's something that I do as well. So I'm just going to talk through what I do. I used to do some other things, but nowadays I just cut all the strings off. And so here we go. Cut, cut, cut. These are just wire clippers, or pliers rather. Cut, cut, cut. Oh, missing one. And done. Alright, so now the strings are cut. So you can string this two different ways. Lately I've been doing back and through, but you can do it the other way, and I'll elaborate more on that in a little bit. So the string broke, the B string, it broke right at that connection point right there. And rightfully so, that thing's looking pretty rough. So I'm actually going to string it the other way this next time, if I remember. Okay, so I feed everything out, I take all that out. Sometimes they're stubborn, but they'll get out of there eventually. Come on, baby. Come on. Ooh, so close. That was so close. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There it is. Cool. So this particular bridge system has taken some abuse. I don't know if you can see, but all that digging in. So I need eventually a better tailpiece, or whatever this is called. Someday. For now, it's fine. Okay, this guy's pretty stubborn too. So if it's giving you a lot of trouble, you can use another string to feed and push through. That usually works. In this case, it's not. Okay, internet's just watching me stubbornly fight this. So that's a lot of fun. This guy's pretty stuck in there. There we go. See, it worked. I wasn't lying. Let's see, this might be a little better if it's like that. Double check the angle real quick. Yeah, that might be slightly better. Okay, so I removed the strings from this tail piece. I'm just gonna put this here so for no particular reason. This is all trash, so just make a pile. You can unclip it, but I like to uncoil. So I like to loosen everything. Oh, I'll flip it over. Oh, flip it over to this side so you guys can see. So I just uncoil. Comes right out. If it gives you a hard time, you can clip it. So yeah, I'm just removing this. If you're watching on YouTube, you can just fast forward this. Yeah, feel free to pause, fast forward. I'm not going to be doing any editing. I'm just too busy for that. Okay, so strings are removed. I'm going to go ahead and kind of loop them into each other. Gather up all the bits and pieces, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw it away right away. Okay, so now the guitar is unstringed, de-stringed, and there's a couple different things that we can do. I'm not going to go full-blown nerd out on cleaning it, but usually when the strings are removed, I use that as an opportunity to kind of wipe the guitar down. And I don't have any polish, but I do have these microfiber cloths, so I will use these microfiber cloths to just use some elbow grease to just take off any dust, dirt, and grime that's been collecting. And kind of look and see if there's anything loose, if anything needs tightening. And so let's clean it up. Any dirt or grime is going to be detrimental to your tone because that absorbs sound, and you want an instrument to reflect sound. It's kind of how acoustics work, but in sound. So polishing off that headstock. And then I'll be working on the body here. And the body's a lot grimier than the headstock. And some of this stuff won't be coming off, and that's fine. Like I said, I'm not gonna go full blown crazy on cleaning it right now. But yeah, a lot of things are getting pitted. Some of these items are loose. That's interesting. I think it's loose on that side too. So I think for this particular guitar, this might be the last time I restring it before I upgrade some of this hardware, because I don't think that that's normal. I could be wrong. And this is, oh no, I am wrong. This is normal, I suppose. So don't do what I just did, which is twist these things, because you're gonna have to readjust that later. Yeah, this one's pretty grimy. I'm gonna have to adjust the intonation too after doing that. Now, this is something that's a little peculiar. half of the wedges are going one direction and the other are going the other. They should all be going the same way if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of strange. No, whatever. Okay, so here we go. Polished it a little bit, not a whole lot. The grime is pretty stubborn. So once a year I go and get my guitars professionally set up and intonated, and I kind of rely on them to clean up all my scuds. Okay, so that's just extra credit stuff. Not required, but this is a fretboard traditional conditioning oil. So you can follow the directions. There's different brands make different types, and you can usually just get away with whatever is with whatever. But if you have special finishes on your guitar, things like that, well, then you're in for a world of hurt. So I'll use the same polish cloth and spread it all around. Let that wood absorb the oil, and then in a little bit I'm going to buff it off. So while that's doing its thing, I'll go right back to polishing, not with the same cloth anymore, it's with a different one now. Let's see if I can get some more of that stuff off, grime, dirt and grime. Look at different angles on it, see if everything can come off. Yeah, this thing's pretty pitted. Oh yeah, it's because I played out by the ocean last with this particular guitar. Now you don't want to string the guitar right away after putting the oil on it, because you don't want the oil on your strings. So that's why I'm waiting for it to kind of evaporate and dry. Okay. It's also worth looking at the back to see if there's anything crazy going on in the back. Of course, there's some scuff marks and all that. Made in Korea. Oh, some nasty scuffs there. That makes me sad. Okay, I think that's sufficient. So, same oily rag from before. Just gonna kind of buff / massage that stuff in there. Okay, now there's a couple other things you can do. You can polish your frets and all that fun stuff, and normally I do, but this doesn't look too grimy compared to most of the guitars I play. So I'm just going to go ahead and restring it. So again, I'm using 10s for this particular guitar. And everybody has their own different rule with which side you start off with. I just do whichever side I feel like. It's usually the low E string. Now be very careful as to not restring the string in the wrong string. So 46 is the thickest. And here we go. Okay. So this is interesting, that if I string it, it's really hard to intonate it because the string is in the way. But if it's the opposite, I gotta figure this out. Ultimately, I don't think it matters, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna work like that. So this is like so. Okay. So make sure you feed the string in. I'll flip it around. Slightly easier to see on that side. Okay, so make sure you feed it from the inside. It doesn't really matter, but I like to feed it from the inside. And this is probably the most important part. Make sure everything's lined up. And okay. I never do it like this. I'm almost always on the other side. So this is good though, because I test how well I know how to string. Okay, so going around, out. And I have a little bit of slack, but not a whole lot, which I just pulled through. So a little bit of slack, but not a whole lot. Okay, I'm gonna pull it taut and then fold it back over itself. And this is just to ensure that when I tighten it up, it's gonna be a bit easier. So now I'm gonna spin it around just so it's easier for me to wind, because this is how I always do it. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna make sure that there's pressure on the string, and I usually hold it like this. And you don't need this tool. This is a winder. You can just wind it by hand. And it'll eventually do what it's supposed to do, but it will take a lot longer. And as you're winding it, you want to make sure that the string up at the peg is feeding lower. You don't want it feeding above itself. So right now it's about to feed above itself. So I'm going to run up over here and push the string down, just to make sure that it feeds under itself. And I might have not given it enough slack. But that's okay, because it is pinching itself, and that's all that really matters. So it turns out I probably needed more slack, but I think this will do in a pinch. I'm going to throw the tuner on again and tune it to an E string, to an E. I recommend picking so that you don't put unnecessary finger juice on the string. And now we have an E. Okay, we're in business. Alright. Some other things I forgot to do. Okay, I'm going to slack it off again because I forgot to put nut sauce. So this is going to help prevent string breakage in the future. And you want to put this at points of contact. So over here at the bridge, just a little bit of it goes a long way. And a little bit at the nut, if you have it. I forgot, so now I'm putting it back. Make sure you twist the right string. There we go, E. Okay, up next, A. So I'm going to keep it on this side just because I don't feel like being out of my element. So feeding it in. up. So I'm going to need a little more slack than last time. Go through the peg with a little bit extra slack. Down underneath itself. Oh, I can do it like this. There we go, down underneath itself. With sufficient slack this time, not too much though. Let's call that. No, maybe a little bit more. Okay, let's call that enough slack. So, but put it on top of itself, bam, and then start cranking. So this time, too much slack, but it'll still be fine. Actually, that's the perfect amount of slack. Okay, we're about to seal in, so now I'm going to make sure everything's feeding correctly. And again, I'll put lubricant where it counts. So usually just on the one side's fine, because when you feed the string, it's going to pull itself in there. And now we have to make sure this is an A. And I go back and check the E. Okay. Next we have the D string. There we go. Feeding it up through the guitar. Oh, I don't need to do that yet. I'm out of practice, COVID people. I haven't changed any of my strings for like, I don't know, years, 2 years, a year and a half, which is ridiculous because I used to change them all the time because they're always breaking, because I was always playing. But lately I have not been playing all that much. COVID life. I broke this the other day, right after I completed a gig, so couldn't have broke at a better time, right at the end. So I'm thankful for that. I'm not thankful for those having to change the strings. I hate changing strings. I've done it so many times. Kind of like a chore as a kid. You just learn to hate it. Now, if I had a lot of time, I'd be way into this, but I don't. Tuning up to a D. Okay, up next for this particular set, 17, which is destined to be the G string. Okay, so now it's on the other side, so I'm going to spin it around so I can feed it from that side. As one of the things about these kinds of guitars, that all the tuning pegs are on different sides. And I'm not sure if I like that really. I prefer kind of like the Fender Stratocaster, Telecaster, where everything's in the same lane. Because I've done what a lot of people do, which is accidentally, oh, I lied. I don't want it this way either. I want it back to how it was, like this. Okay. So back in on itself, underneath, and then over the top. But these wired ones, you definitely want to make sure you have some slack. That might be a little too much, so let's feed a little more through before I start cranking. Yeah, how about that? That should be good. Okay, something interesting is about to happen. If you take a look over at the bridge, my string isn't in the saddle. I just noticed that. So if you crank down too much and that's not where it's supposed to go, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. So always good to double check that kind of thing. Once it starts becoming taut, right around here, that's when I'm going to put my lube in. Okay, needs to be reading as a G. There we go, G. All right, almost there, gang. 13. Okay, in, and then make sure you have some slack. The thinner the string gets, the more slack you need. I feel like that's going to be the right amount. I used to have a system, but I haven't done it in a while, and I don't want to say what it is in case I'm wrong. I'm so out of practice. Man, 1 gig at the ocean, and this thing is rusty. It's crazy. Okay, making sure that the string is feeding to the bridge as it's getting tighter. Still need a few more. it's a B. Okay, last string. So this is going to be the one that needs the most amount of slack. So I'm going to say about right there. There we go. Just reeler in. Double checking to make sure it's feeding itself from the bottom. Because these strings with the slack tend to be the most prone for incorrect stringing. Higher chances of it feeding itself incorrectly. Which may be the case. Yep. Just missed it by one coil. That eyesight's getting bad. There we go. Corrected it. Okay. Breaking a sweat doing this. Okay. So now I'm going to make sure I got my lubricants in order. So now at this point I'm going to kind of hold it like as if I was playing it. I'm more comfortable tuning like that. No, yeah, tuner is kind of blown. Just because that flap, ugh, it's irritating. It still kind of works. Well, maybe it doesn't at all. Yeah, this one might be toast. Okay, so I messed with the intonation too a second ago, and that's gonna really mess some things up, so wish I hadn't have done that, but okay, at this point I'm gonna throw the strap back on so that I can kind of hold it, because ultimately you're gonna want to tune it to the way that you play it. So make sure it's in tune. Okay, good. Not bad. Oh yeah, and the other thing I did is I messed with this stuff, which I should not have done as well. Which is feeling impossible to move, and that's gonna help with my action. Ah, intonation's spot on. But before I get too crazy with it, I'm going to start bending the crap out of the strings. And that's just to stretch the strings out. Okay, I gotta lower this sucker because that was a mistake from before. Yeah, I made a mistake earlier. Okay, I'll do that later. But anyway, you guys, that's how you change the strings. I'm gonna do one last little cleanup here, which is just clip the strings. Some people get real crazy and they get all up in there. I like to leave a little bit out. It might cut you or poke you, or if you're using a gig bag, it might cut into your gig bag. But I like to make sure that I have a little bit sticking out so it doesn't undo itself. But there is a cutting hazard if you do it like that. And with the remainders, I'm going to throw that away. And there you have it, gang. That is how to restring a Tune-O-Matic style guitar.